It's very easy to get consumed with your everyday life. There are times where your world takes precedence over anything else. We now live in a society where it's common to not know the members of your community, whether neighbors, police officers, or some other public official. As such, the relationship between one Kansas City cop and a young girl is a story worth telling. Not only do we see the traditional values come back to the surface, but we also see true kindness shine brightly. Officer Jeffrey Colvin worked in the area of East Kansas City. He often drove around to patrol the area and fulfill the responsibilities of a local policeman. A friendly guy, Colvin was jovial with the local residents. He even made it a point to check in on people and their well-being. A local 9-year-old girl named Plynn would often see Jeffrey riding around. The precocious youngster would wave at him, only for Jeffrey to wave back. Little did Jeffrey know that this would be the start of a very special bond between the two. Jeffrey grew to really care for the young girl. It was said that Plynn lived with her 2 brothers, though Jeffrey didn't exactly know what the living situation was for the family at the time. He'd often come and see the family. Not only did he give the children candy, but he'd also genuinely care about the well-being of the children. Plynn expanded upon this later in a future interview. In an interview Plynn gave as an adult, she spoke about the impact Jeffrey made on her. He was like my best friend. I remember he'd bring us candy sometimes. First question every day after school would be, "How did school go today? What did you learn?" He was like that parent. Even more special, Jeffrey Pinky promised that he'd check in on Plynn at a very frequent rate. Little did he know that something rather scary would happen. Jeffrey was making his normal patrol like always. Suddenly, he heard a dispatch come onto his radio. A situation was occurring which involved children. Once the address was given over the radio, it suddenly hit Jeffrey. It was Plynn's address. He flew over to the home as fast as he could. When Jeffrey entered the home, he was horrified at what he saw. Duly, he realized that the help offered to Plynn and her brothers was much more important than just giving them a few pieces of candy every now and then. Upon entering the home he had been to so many times before, Jeffrey realized something was off. When looking at Plynn, he realized she was extremely pale. Even worse, she was in very rough shape from a physical standpoint. Things were so severe that she was immediately rushed to the hospital. Upon seeing doctors, the medical team determined that this poor little 9-year-old girl was suffering from malnutrition. Plynn's condition was bad, so bad in fact that she could have died from the malnutrition. However, Jeffrey's quick thinking upon hearing her address over the radio literally saved Plynn's life. According to Plynn, Jeffrey was her guardian angel. She admitted that if he didn't make the previous pinky promise, there's a good chance she wouldn't have been around. This poor girl and her siblings were clearly neglected in a very horrible way. Not having enough food to eat for anyone is a really sad situation. However, when we're talking about 3 innocent children, the situation is even worse. We soon learned that Plynn's mother had a drug addiction. It was a volatile household, and one which ironically enough had some stability only when Jeffrey would come over to check on the kids. Ultimately, a decision came from the state as to what would happen with Plynn and her brothers. Something needed to happen, and quick. The 3 siblings were taken from their home and placed into protective services. No longer did they have to worry about the horrible situations at home. Also, Cullen didn't have to worry about her main way in providing for her siblings. Due to the fact their household was barren, Plynn would often steal food from 7 to 11 in order to bring it back and give her brothers some much-needed nourishment. As the family were sent away, they ended up losing touch with their favorite officer. Would Plynn ever see Jeffrey again? Plynn told WGN about how much Jeffrey meant to her. Through all the bad situations, I would just picture him saying that he was here for us and that if we ever needed him, he would be right there. He would always protect us, and so those words would come to me during the worst times of my childhood. As fate would have it, nearly 10 years after the incident, Jeffrey would receive an email about a girl he once knew. He'd always wonder what happened to Plynn. Soon, he'd get the chance to catch up with her. When she was a child, Plynn had told Jeffrey about her plans to one day be a police officer. According to Jeffrey, she was adamant about having him be there on the day she officially was welcomed to the force. Jeffrey's expected duty would include pinning her badge on her. Well, did this dream end up happening? Now a policewoman, Clyn was sworn in the town of Galveston, Texas. Jeffrey made the drive out from Kansas City to be there on her special day. As he mentioned in multiple interviews with various media sites, he's beyond proud of the young girl who was once his energetic buddy waving at him from the streets. Clyn followed her dreams and beat the odds en route to becoming a policewoman. In the process, Jeffrey's worldwide relationship with Clyn officially had existed for 20 years at that point. Jeffrey has been Clyn's idol for years, dating back to her childhood. He was a parental figure, but also someone who inspired Clyn to ultimately join the police force. As a way to thank him for everything he's done, she presented this beautiful message to him. As we can see, this directly speaks back to the time when Jeffrey made the pinky promise to always looking out for her. Having a guiding force in your life is so very important. It's always nice to look up to someone who will provide guidance, advice, patience, love, and support. At the very least, a mentor/role model may expose you to something new and exciting. This sort of influence, as was the case with Jeffrey and Clyn, could lead to an eventual career path. When speaking about the overall impact Jeffrey made on Clyn, she offered this powerful statement on the man who influenced her greatly. "He is the one who makes me want to be like him. I want to be a Jeffrey to another child or another adult. I want to be a Jeffrey." Based upon the respect Clyn has for Jeffrey, we won't at all be surprised to see her mentor someone else at a later time. She seems highly motivated to keep the legacy going. Clyn came from a very tough situation. Many in her situation would not be able to progress from the trauma suffered as a child. In fact, many would completely understand if that prevented her from moving on. However, she didn't let the trauma from her childhood stop her from living out her dreams. Jeffrey was interviewed by a local media outlet. He spoke glowingly of her and even made it a point of saying that she proved everyone wrong and beat the physical odds. Clyn met a paramedic in her new home state of Texas. Much like her choice to follow in Jeffrey's footsteps, her friend decided to become a paramedic after being saved by one. In the process, the two of them banded together to form a non-profit organization. Clyn's friend was also neglected and abused as a young child. Based upon their experiences growing up, they aim to help children who've gone those similarly challenging situations. Not only did Jeffrey get recognized with a specially made plaque, but another officer from Kansas City also was praised by Clyn. Remember, it was Clyn who reached out to the Kansas City Police Department as a means to reconnect with the man she had previously called her guardian angel. You can see the joy emanating from all of their faces as they celebrate Clyn becoming a member of the force. Clyn is beyond a true inspiration. The proposition of living in a home with a parent abusing drugs is bad enough. Having to feed your brothers is also very difficult. Not to mention Clyn was only 9 years of age when she was forced to shoplift from a local convenience store. It could have been easy, or even expected, for her to fail in her dream of becoming a police officer. Instead, she's currently thriving with a beautiful family in the heart of Texas. The story of Jeffrey and Clyn is absolutely breathtaking. We get a real glimpse into the positivity in society today. Often, we lose sight of the goodness out there in the world. Though it was a small gesture of kindness from Jeffrey, he totally changed Clyn's life for the better.